Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Why We Love Doctor Who 16.2, because we never finished the first set of series 7. We ran
got
out
as
of time.
far as we
Yeah,
did. Gobby,
we-
hands clapping.
Would you like that?
Wow.
Yeah.
That new title, that is the best one yet. I absolutely adore it. It's like got that retro 8-bit graphics feel,
It's awesome, isn't it?
but it's just like it feels so homely and familiar that way. And then the music and the titles are just fabulous.
It's awesome.
Absolutely fabulous. Congratulations.
Thank you. I won't take all the credit myself. Somebody actually did that for me. The actual, because it's actually Minecraft. That's all done in Minecraft. Somebody actually built that in Minecraft as an intro. So the credit will be due. That's why there's a little cube in the corner, and their YouTube channel will be mentioned at the end titles. But all the words and that I had to put it myself. But yeah,
what else do you do with Minecraft except build your own working time machine? It all makes sense.
It all makes sense. But no, I saw that. I contacted the guy and he said, Jeff, as long as you leave my logo in the corner and give me credit at the end, you're more than welcome to use it. So
fabulous, just fabulous. That's just great. Just great.
It is.
We can't start the show without referencing that. Now, coming in right away, we've got Papalaz says, "Oh look, RTD has hired another musical star." Does anyone know what this is?
I have no idea.
I've been blissfully unaware of going on Doctor Who Twitter today. Has anyone heard of a musical star?
I've not heard of the musical star, but I do know pretty much everyone seems to think that it's going to be a musical episode of Doctor Who.
Brilliant.
Which I think is terrible. I will say, I've said before, the two shows that did the musicals, Buffy and Xena, I'm a huge fan of both, but both their musical episodes are crap. And what's worse is that both of them actually intruded on what could have been really cool stories. So to me, a musical thing, it's not only a stupid novelty, it's old hat as well. That's when Russell T's still living in the late 90s, early 2000s, where he thinks...
When people say musical episode, it makes me think Robots of Sherwood. Because that was such a ridiculously campy story, but it might as well have been a musical. However, that's actually for a couple of weeks' time. So we won't dive into that too soon. But my point is, don't panic, everybody, even if it is a musical episode. Number one, you might actually like it. Number two, the show will survive. It's had worse.
Well, I don't care at all at this stage.
The musical episode is going to have to be really, really bad to beat some of the stinkers in the show's catalogue. So let's not worry too much.
So Chibnall's era may actually make it plausible that we might actually tolerate a musical episode. Oh, Jesus. That's really bad.
Look, when your low bar is that low, yes,
I suppose so. You look at it like that, it is possible.
Yeah, so, I take it from me, because you've always got to look on the bright side of life.
Yeah.
And, that's very personal to my own experiences. But also, I'm sorry to tell everybody, but we've also received the news today that Stuart Glazebrook has passed away. Stuart was a founding member of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society and produced many wonderful illustrations throughout the 1970s and 1980s in his beautiful black and white pen dot style. He was also very much involved with the Blackpool exhibition team. So, a real OG fan, a man who loved the show from its very beginnings. And sadly, now he's passed on to the great TARDIS in the sky.
Yes,
just thinking about Stuart. I'll just pop that link in the private chat there, Gobby. If you want to add it or maybe pop up a couple of pictures of Stuart's art, because it's wonderful stuff. And it's always I say sad, but part of me feels that we shouldn't be sad about death, but it's letting go of somebody who loved the show so much.
Yeah, I've just popped the banner in the chat.
I wish Stuart best in his future journeys.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, maybe.
Right. Okay. That being done, where were we? Gosh, we just found so much to talk about with the first part of with Series 7. It's ended up being the first part,
Yes,
and
yeah,
we had just sailed past the rings of Arcton.
yes, we had.
And well, now things could get chilly because we're entering a cold war. Who's going to
Oh,
start us off?
what a great episode! What a great episode when it was set.
Shall I go first?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
crack on,
carry on,
mate.
Gobby.
Yeah. No, carry on. No, seriously, because I like this episode purely because I like submarines. So,
Oh no,
Uh,
sorry. I just
a
yeah.
Mark Gatiss script, by the way.
Yes,
Everyone.
it was.
Mm.
It was a Mark Gatiss, and they at least they made the effort to make it an actual Russian submarine and not some generic submarine. But there you go. So feel free to carry on, Burranjor.
Okay, well, all I was going to say was I would agree with you guys. I think this episode's a classic. It's to be honest, probably one of the best reintroductions for a classic era monster. You know,
Mm.
it really kind of gets to what I think makes the Ice Warriors good, which is the fact that they did have individual personalities. They weren't like, you know, the Daleks or even the Sontarans who were all a clone race. The Ice Warriors actually like were a proper race like us.
Yeah.
And you know, this one, it could have easily just made them like drones, but actually by focusing on one, I think that was not only good in making it scary, but in also, you know, taking us deep into its character. And I really loved the look for it. And David Warner, obviously, I mean, you don't need to say David Warner's a good actor. He's one of these guys it's actually quite a good performance for him because he normally plays villains, whereas here he's kind of a lovable old sort of coot, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah, it was
so
the lovable scientist when he was
he was really, really lovable.
Good. Yeah, he really was.
So yeah, overall, there's not really anything I can fault. All I can say is maybe I don't think they should have shown the Ice Warriors helmet off. I can understand why they did, but I think it was I don't know, it just didn't look that scary when you saw its helmet come back at the end. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like, you know, the marker or anything, but after the way it'd been built up, maybe
the
was
problem
a bit
when you have a
anticlimactic.
character which is defined by a helmet is whatever you show under the helmet isn't as good as the mystery of not showing it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
You know,
It just
I
didn't
mean,
live up.
I definitely agree. Who is to say what the right way for an Ice Warrior's unhelmeted head to look like is?
Exactly.
You know, and
Exactly.
the VFX guys were tasked with having a stab at it, and they came up with a CGI head. Do I believe that was the definitive face of an Ice Warrior? Not especially.
No.
You know, he could have been horribly disfigured by a laser blast for all we know.
Mm.
You know, he could be the ugliest son of a bitch of an Ice Warrior who ever was. You know, and all the rest of him shun him as a dreadful pariah. You know, you just don't know, do we? So depends.
No, I agree. It probably shouldn't have been shown.
The mystery was better, but you know, he was trying to ramp its stakes. Let's get here from Goldenagedgeek on Cold War.
Well, this episode got back to the roots of what Doctor Who usually is, based under siege stories, putting the characters in a confined space, which very much does create that eerie atmosphere. This was obviously because, as I say, I've said this many times throughout these streams, of course, the modern series was my introduction to the show. Of course, since then I've gone back and watched the classics, but this would have been my first time seeing the Ice Warriors. And I agree with the whole taking off the helmet. I think it does take away from the idea of what the Ice Warriors could be underneath. It reminded me of Killer Croc when they took the helmet off the Ice Warriors. That's all I think of.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's exactly what comes to my mind as well. But
to be fair, this was before the Suicide Squad movie.
Yes.
Just so.
Yeah. But it depends on when you see him, doesn't it? You see. So
Z3PO is in with a very good point here. I thought it was a bit janky portraying Ice Warrior as a lizard when they are traditionally not found in that kind of environment. Well,
this is very true.
That's true, but it's also true that they've been reptilians since 1966.
Yes, so you can't.
And it's also
They were
true
based-
that they don't do very well in heat, even though they're reptiles.
They're saying
So-
the Ice Warriors were based off of the Treens from Dan Dare, and to us, the Treens from Dan Dare also inspired the Daleks, the Sontarans, and the Cybermen. But visually, the Ice Warriors seem to have taken most of them. When you look at the Ice Lord with the big head, that's like the Mekon, which is the Treens leader, who also inspired Davros too, by the way, and the Cyber Controller with the big head. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
So basically, we got all ideas from one single comic book.
Yeah, Dan, classic retro sci-fi. Yeah, I mean, and of course, Brian Hayes, the original creator of the Ice Warriors, submitted a third Ice Warrior script, which was supposed to be set on Mars and be about this sort of battle between Ice Warrior tribes. And until it was decided that it was just absolutely impossibly horrifically expensive and there was no way. But he did have this kind of third idea, which, I think would have been even more heavily influenced by the Treens, based on the synopsis of the plot that I've seen. But talking of plots, let's talk about the plot of what's actually going on in this one. So, the Doctor and Clara just land somewhere. They're trying to get to Las Vegas, and they land instead inside a Russian submarine in 1983. Not only that, but as soon as they get there, things start to go peak tong, alarms go off all over the place, and the TARDIS dematerializes, leaving them literally stuck with everybody else in this tin can, surrounded by the icy cold frozen depths, trapped with whatever else it is that's in there with them. In this case, a mysterious humanoid figure inside a giant block of ice,
which they kept referring to as a woolly mammoth.
And in no time whatsoever, a incautious Russian crewman does something he shouldn't have done, and ignores the keep that block of ice frozen at all costs protocol, and smash comes a hand grasping around the throat. Run titles.
Yes.
So we're not messing around here. And this Ice Warrior is making his presence known. Everybody's absolutely terrified of him. The humans don't know how the hell to handle him. And he starts making demands. He'd like a chat. And so the Doctor sends in Clara as their negotiating representative, and with him communicating via headset through her. And we find out that this is not just any old Ice Warrior. This is Grand Marshal Skaldak. Who, he's got a legacy on the red snow as long as your arm. He's one of the most Ice Warriors there ever was. And he's not happy because the humans have disrespected them, so now they've all got to die.
Yes, of course.
So the Doctor goes, well, could we try not to do that?
Just if you mind.
Attempting to persuade Skaldak not to follow his Martian instincts. But Skaldak himself decides to go full alien and exits the suit. So we discover for the first time we encounter an Ice Warrior's natural form, which is more of a kind of squiddy lizard
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes. It doesn't actually have legs. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So the legs of the suit are robotic, I suppose.
Yes, must be.
Must be robotic legs, so you can make out like it's a humanoid species, like everyone else in the galaxy. Got a bit of leg envy going on Mars.
Yes.
Sorry, it have legs, but they just fit into the same way its arms fitted into the robot arms that were able to move in the room.
It's all the actual overall anatomy is a little bit unclear because it's mostly seen as wrinkles in the shadows.
Yes.
Yeah.
But able to slither through vents like the best of them, which isn't something you expected out of an Ice Warrior.
Well, no, No.
So Skeldat basically, gets his alien way with the brains of Lieutenant on this boat, and is about to, with the virtue of a countdown, but this time a good countdown because it's not a trivial countdown. There's a countdown to stop the firing of a nuclear weapon.
Yes, well,
But Clara finally gets through to him and says how nice it would be just to go home instead. Just as a nice warrior ship arrives and picks him up, and then the Doctor then reveals that it was his fault the TARDIS disappeared because he accidentally activated the hostile action displacement system, and he'd forgotten where that switch was as long ago as the Crotons.
yes, exactly.
But there we are.
Yes.
But hang on a minute, it sent the TARDIS to the other pole. Russians, can you give us a lift to the other pole? And
yeah, because that won't cause a problem, will it? A Russian submarine transiting from the north to the south pole. Yes. I also remember that it was severely damaged. I mean,
well, if a Doctor doesn't make it from the North Pole to the South Pole in 3 years, it will still be there in 1986 and cause a paradox by the time the planet turns up. So
this is it. This is it. Yeah, better get a move on. This knackered submarine. Yeah, but
I mean, I absolutely loved the period setting.
Yes, it was very good.
Combined with the bottleneck script and the very, very well realized sets with excellent use of water. I mean, you genuinely believe this was a submarine. I don't quite know how it was done, but it was done well. And a bold, strong new design for the Ice Warriors.
Yes.
And building, not cutting away at what had been established before. In other words, developing the Ice Warriors in the right way. And let's be honest, boys, from the Monster of Peladon, they needed a little bit of development.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Touch.
The
last time they were seen, it was in a metaphor about why it might be a bad idea for Britain to join the European common market.
Well, yes, indeed.
So, Monster of Peladon is crap, by the way. I have to say, this is one instance where I think NuWho did a better job than the latest classic Who story with them.
I mean, considering the Ice Warriors had last been actually seen on screen 8 years before this episode is set.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. When this episode was set 30 years in the past, a little updating was going to be necessary, and I think that it was handled really well. And as everyone said, Burranjor, I think, said at the start of the discussion, this is one of the best new monster introductions. Absolutely. Yeah. Shame they haven't done anything all that interesting with them since.
No,
I didn't mind Empress of Mars, to be honest. See Mark Gatiss.
Minded it, but
I think Mark Gatiss is actually better than people give him credit for. I know he's made some mistakes like that. The worst one he wrote was the one in series 2 with the abusive dad. But other than that, I think Mark Gatiss generally has an okay understanding of the show. Like, he's never done anything. I mean, I know there's the Paradigm Daleks, but he's never done anything.
I was going to say we're skirting around fixing the Daleks here.
Yes.
But what we can admit is he came back strong.
Yes. Victory of the Daleks isn't as bad as people make it. Like, okay, the new Dalek designs weren't great, but I think the idea behind them giving them different ranks was quite cool. It was just the way it was done. I mean, I don't know why that bugs people more than say,
trying to get Series 7 done. We're not going to do a Paradigm Daleks.
sorry about that.
We'll refer everybody to the stream we made some time before.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? It was related. I don't think Mark Gatiss is as bad as everyone makes out. And this, I think, shows he's got. This was probably his best year because he also did Adventure in Space and Time this year. Remember, that was
here's a piece we could say for Mark Gatiss. Number one, he really understands the character of the Doctor.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Number two, he absolutely loves the show.
Yes.
Yeah. So put those two things together, and the rumours that he's going to be writing for Series 14 are not unwelcome.
Well, to be honest, I don't care at this stage. I don't care about Series 14.
Just anybody, as long as it's not that lot, will do. Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Mark Gatiss is probably the only one of the fandom in crowd that I would keep on, like because I think they need a major overhaul of all the writers. But as I said, he's quite a good, one for just doing one-off fun stories, and this is definitely actually is the best example of that for him, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree.
It is a great example of a bottle script. Absolutely, and it uses everything. It uses everything it's got well. It uses it efficiently. It's got David Warner in it,
Yeah.
which is just fabulous.
Oh, he's brilliant.
And the Ice Warrior works, barring the dodgy face.
Oh, so
yeah.
one other thing about the Ice Warrior, actually, Nicholas Briggs. Now, overall, I like Nicholas Briggs, but I don't like the way they get him to do every single, main monster in it. Because, see, to be honest, when it comes to outside of the Daleks and the Cybermen, his voices can be a bit limited. Like he did an okay job for this Ice Warrior here, but it was just kind of a Jadoon in the Zygon voice. He just does that voice for any other thing like that. It's like, so maybe they should have actually
That was very good. That was very good.
That was yeah. Excellent.
Watch out, Nicholas Briggs. Your competition has arrived.
but that's what I mean. And to us, I wish they'd actually get some other people in to do Dalek voices, only because I wouldn't want Briggs to go. Like there was a lot more variety in Classic Who among the Dalek voices because there were lots of guys doing it, But certainly they should get other people in to do the Ice Warriors and other monsters because really, why even bother?
I would just like to see a more significant story, one in which the Ice Warriors, if he got to do a little bit of war, that's not too much to ask, is it?
No, absolutely.
No, not really. But no,
yeah, I mean, this story is Dalek, but for Ice Warriors, isn't it? As in Series 1.
Yeah.
But the issue is it isn't followed up by the big Ice Warrior finale at the end of the season.
Indeed.
So it's a lot of promise. But looking at it 10 years later, one extra story, which wasn't quite expansive a story. I don't really feel like much has been done here.
Then again, look at how they've ballsed up other villains like the Master. Maybe the Ice Warrior's got a lucky escape. I don't know.
Yeah, there is that.
Well, I mean, but then the Zygons show up in Day of the Doctor, and then the Zygons get a two-parter in Series 9. So maybe it's just that Zygons were cheaper to make. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Because I mean, that Skaldek's outfit could not have been a cheap costume.
No, because
Stephen, I do know the reason to that. Actually, Stephen Moffat loves the Zygons. I don't know, maybe it's because they're Scottish monsters or something like that. But he famously did not like the Ice Warriors. He didn't want. Mark Gatiss said in an interview he had to fight hard to get the Ice Warriors in the show because Stephen Moffat said, as far as he was concerned, they were a byword for shit Doctor Who monsters. The way they moved really slowly and the way they talked like that. He thought that wasn't scary, so he basically had to twist his arm, and they only let him use them again in the Peter Capaldi era because that was the last.
That's all very well for him to say, but he's never been held hostage over a transmat system.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there is
I love Seeds of Death, by the way. I think Seeds of Death is an underrated classic. I really like
do what I say now, human, or I'll mirror wobble you to death.
Yes.
Terry Scully.
I was intimidated. But we've got Papa has some comments here. My problem is we made the Ice Warriors identical to Daleks and Cybermen. It's a weak alien in a powerful suit. Kind of agree, also kind of don't. Because having an organic alien in a cybernetic suit, I mean, that's always been given that they were wearing a cybernetic suit. So does that make them weak? And I think that, this story went to pains to show that Skaldek was, if anything, an even bigger threat outside the suit than inside it.
He tore that guy up.
The Doctor has a line to that effect. So, I mean, I would say the Ice Warrior outside of the shell is a powerful and dangerous enemy, but they wear the suits so that they could battle in environments outside what they can tolerate, although they don't work in hot weather.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of.
That's
Yeah,
a fair
yeah.
analysis.
That's basically
Yeah.
them. So they prefer to fight somewhere chilly. You know, their technology works better. I mean, that's. No, I disagree with everything said. I think refer you back to the Ice Warriors. The
Well,
Doctor
thing
clearly
is,
says it's cybernetic, doesn't he?
I don't know, but they're clearly wearing armor. I mean, look at the Ice Lord. That's a helmet. Like you can see, that's not their skin. That's a helmet. The Ice Lord is clearly wearing, and like also the robot thing. I mean, if they're not wearing a suit, that means that the gun is built into their arm. So obviously, it has to be a kind of robot suit that they're wearing to some extent in the original.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm pretty clear on that. On as a classic fan who loves the Ice Warriors, I've watched that story a lot of times. But it's just, I mean, it's just strange how the classic series Ice Warrior came up with a threat which was antithetical to their supposed nature. You know, but hey, you know, they only got called Ice Warriors because that particular story was set in a future ice age.
Yeah.
You know, so they got a bit confused. As much as they get celebrated as a decent piece of world building with a Doctor Who monster from classic Who terms, because they had the character of the Ice Lord to project them a bit more interestingly and so on. So I just feel that they could be treated like they should be treated like the Sontarans and the Cybermen and the Daleks and given a proper establishment and given a space and stakes in the Doctor Who universe, because the one thing they lack here is a clear sense of purpose. What is the Ice Warrior's purpose? Is it just surviving their ruinous previous wars on Mars?
I feel it's a bit hard to actually make the Ice Warriors as big a deal as the Daleks and the Cybermen, simply because the Ice Warriors come from our solar system. So if they've like conquered, you know, the galaxy, then it'll have to be our galaxy. So they're kind of that. Whereas the Daleks can be like hundreds of galaxies away, so you can explain why they don't need to reach Earth in the 21st century. So I think that, you know, that's maybe a problem with why you can't make them that. You've always got to have them be like, you know, a race that are nearing extinction. Unless it's in the future, of course. You can maybe, even then, in the future, it's been established to become good guys. Although, to be honest, I don't think that was a bad idea. I would have actually liked to have seen more stories where the Ice Warriors are, say, not necessarily the main thing, but are just, you know, are just like our allies helping us against another threat. It doesn't need to be on.
If we just pick up what Papalaz is saying, the timescale is all wrong as usual. Mars became uninhabitable millions of years ago. Well, look, here's how that was. In the 1960s, they were writing Doctor Who really, really, really quickly, and no one gave a crap.
Yeah, basically.
Because they had a show to make, damn it. So, yes, I mean, the mythology of the Ice Warriors and Doctor Who has never properly aligned with what human science thinks it knows about Mars.
Yeah.
Like Venusian karate.
Yes.
How could he learn karate on Venus when it's just a big ball of molten gas?
I would rather that the Ice Warriors had been established as coming from the planet Fenris or something, just somewhere. Yeah. Let them be established as coming from a really, really cold planet. I mean, that would have been easier. So they had that. I don't think being from Mars has helped them that very much.
No, it really
hasn't. Definitely not.
So because it's just too tied to previous science fictions which Brian Hayes was using as a shorthand, namely Dan Dare and Treen.
Yes.
The trainer from Venus, actually. Sorry, I'm just a big Dan Dare fan. I'm sorry to talk about
really? You never know. You never know.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. He couldn't have said from Venus. It would be too obvious who lived in them. So we had to make it Mars.
Oh,
but try living on Venus. If you think living on Mars is unlikely, good luck, good luck even finding your feet on Venus. You won't even be able to damn well stand up.
Well, John Kirk,
so-
he learned a lullaby. He learned a lullaby from Venus.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, he must have done it lying down. That's all I can say.
Hopscotch, remember in Death to the Daleks, he used Venusian hopscotch to get by.
Yeah.
Venusians rate highly in his book.
Venus, Jesus, hard to imagine a more inhospitable environment. Right, anyway. Back to Cold War. Let's do some scores. I mean, look, we've got to finish season 7 today, boys.
Yes, we really have.
Right? We could perhaps let Name of a Doctor slip till next week, but we've got to get the rest of this done.
Yeah.
So let's do some scores for Cold War. Who wants to? Gobby, you do a score for us.
I will go an A for this one. I enjoyed it, but there was one little continuity error that sort of ruined it for me right at the end.
Excise it, Gobby. What was this error?
Well, if you watch, when it's all finished and the spaceship's there and they turn the keys and the hatches of the missiles close.
Yes.
Right. If you watch right at the end when he's going to says, can we have a lift? And the camera pans out, the hatches are open again. Just a minor little.
Just goes to show those sneaky Russians.
The sneaky Russians. Because, of course,
you can't turn your back on them during the Cold War.
Yeah. Those Russians.
That is totally a joke, right? That is totally a joke.
Oh, hold
However,
on.
If this was made in the 80s, it probably would have some dig at
Russians.
Russians.
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely.
Because media did then, because they were the other, And,
if it was made now, it would have a dig against the Russians.
Oh, God, that'd be even worse, because, yes, quite.
But no, but an A. I'll give it an A. I did enjoy it. Easy A.
Goldenagedgeek, what do you say?
Well, I'm struggling between, and I know this is quite a low score, but I'm struggling between a C+ or a B-. And the reason I say that is because I do like the very enclosed space that the episode is set in, and I think for what it was doing, it worked very well. However, I think the pacing is a little bit too slow. I think it does drag in a lot of places, and certain moments, like particularly when Clara goes to talk with the Ice Warrior for the first time, and he somehow escaped, that sort of thing. I think there was some instances like that in the episode where it kind of mocked the Doctor's intelligence. Just in some moments, I felt that was happening quite a few times. As I say, I don't have anything, really bad to say about this episode. It just doesn't really stick with me, and I just find it lacking in some places. So I'll probably say B-.
B-. There you go. Excellent. How about you, Burranjor?
Well, I'm going to give it an A+. I think it's as good as 21st Century Who Got. It might not be the most deep story, but it's really enjoyable and well done. So, yeah, A+.
There you go.
I'm going to settle on an A.
Hey!
I think this was a standout, very good story from season 7, and one that actually fulfilled Moffat's stated mission of making the stories more like standalone little films.
Yeah.
It was quite filmic. I didn't find the pace dragged. I found it carried along quite happily for me. So I must have just really been enjoying it and engaged with it. It's a fine piece of genre writing.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good episode.
Right, yeah. Now we've all settled on that.
Yes.
It's time to hide from the fact that we've got another episode to do.
Yes.
That one was too easy.
That was too easy, to be fair.
Right. This is a haunted house Doctor Who. And we are in 1974, which is really quite a groovy year.
Was indeed.
And one thing we know about 1974 is the electronics all had very agreeably tactile, harder switches.
Yes,
and nozzles and dials. It all just felt good to twizzle.
Yes,
we have a room in the house which is absolutely full of said 1970s technology, and there's some kind of let's try to record the ghost of the house thing going on, and there's some mysterious entity making things go cold and causing the message "Help me" to appear. And the Doctor arrives because he actually got his own agenda. But one of the people in the house is a woman called Emma Grayling. She's a psychic. She's working with Professor Alec Palmer, who did action type things during World War II. And the Doctor thinks that Emma's psychic talent might help him unravel the mystery of who the fuck Clara is.
Yes, indeed.
So there's this Doctor suspecting Clara ulterior motive plot here, which is why they are actually there. But upon further investigating, the Doctor realizes this isn't some ghost from beyond. This is some creature caught through time. And it quickly establishes it's all about a pocket dimension, and that using Emma's psychic abilities, he can open a portal, enter the pocket dimension, and rescue said person. In other words, provide the help. However, it goes a bit wrong because it's a hell of a strain, and Emma can't keep the door open. So Clara has to go and have a talk with the TARDIS, who doesn't like her and pitches back, but agrees to go and fly through the hole and collect the Doctor, who hangs on to outside for dear life as he's dragged back to reality. And then the Doctor explains that this woman whose time travel is actually from a far future, called Hilla, is actually the descendant of Emma and Alec from the far future. And but it was all very accidental that she got mixed up with this creature that likes to hide that it exists. But also, what they hadn't realised until this point is not one creature, there's two. And at the end of it, we see the two hide creatures who are kind of very strange mouse-shaped humanoids basically sneak off for a bit of nookie. The end.
Yeah, the end. Go for it.
So, lots of things being played with, lots of good solid tropes in this story. Is that a right way to describe a trope as solid? But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's Ghost, as I say, it's Ghost House Doctor Who with an alien time travel twist. What did you guys make of it?
How about you, Goldenagedgeek? Because you didn't get a chance to say much in the last one.
This episode is strange in the fact that you kind of have two plots going at the same time. So you have everything going on with the Hyde creature, but then you also have the Doctor and him trying to find everything out about Clara, who she is, that sort of jazz. I would say that the better parts of the episode come towards the middle and the end, where we see the Doctor and Clara go off in the TARDIS, and they sort of literally just like F off from everything else that's going on. And we do get a perspective into the Doctor of how he views humans, how, the Doctor, although he does travel throughout time, he is sort of timeless in the sense that he doesn't belong to any one particular place or time. So he views humans as people who are going to be born and people who are long dead. So I thought that was interesting about it. Of course, we also get the symbolism in the fact that we go to different locations in different time zones. So you'll see when they go to the past, there's loads of trees, there's loads of greenery, life. But then when they go to the future, it's death, destruction, fire. So I liked that. I like that parallel that they showed. But I do also like the end bit with the Hyde creature. And it's a good twist because when you think of this type of story, like Haunted House, there's a mystery figure, and particularly with how the figure's described to us, it's, very disfigured, it looks very weird. You would expect that to be villainous, but it's never really said explicitly that this is a villainous entity. We, as viewers, just associate with that because it's very ugly looking. So the twist that it isn't actually evil, it's just looking for the other Hyde creature was good because, again, we didn't sort of go under the false pretense of what the episode set up for us. The episode just played on our own emotions and the fact that we expected this creature to be bad when really it wasn't. So I liked that. I liked how the twist was organic.
I agree with that. That was really good. It is, because it allows you to make the decision what you think if it's evil or not, and never actually really says that it is. very good. That's the bit
I really like that about the story, but it's
Yes,
not
the best bit
evil.
of the-
It's just very different.
Yeah, it's just different, and you know, it makes it a very thought provoking episode, really.
Well, different enough that maybe it's a good thing we don't live next to each other.
Indeed.
Maybe that's not an issue. Not for the creature, at least.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it wants to be private.
Yeah, it wants to be left alone. It wants to be private, and yeah, I thought it was. I liked it. It was a great story because it does make you think, and the twist at the end, it does make you think about prejudging things and stuff like that. I liked it. It was a really good story. What did you think, Burranjor?
Well, yeah, I mean, everything you guys have said about the monster, that's completely true. I remember the first time even feeling a bit bad about myself that I'd assumed it was evil just because it was a bit ugly, and then being glad when the doctor, gave it a happy ending. So yeah, that was good. I think.
Hang on, oh no, that sounded wrong.
What do you mean?
No, it's my mind. No.
Oh, sorry, you mean?
Gobby got it.
Oh, okay, right.
6 cents of humour. Yeah, carry on.
What I was going to say was this one. It's a bit of a pastiche. Ironically, it's actually kind of references. I don't know if any of you guys know this, but it was going to be a crossover with Doctor Who's other, daddy from, because the original Hartnell era really drew from Dan Dare and from Quatermass. Although to us, I think Quatermass's influence is a bit overstated. I actually think Dan Dare was more of an influence, but either way, like in this story, there's a lot of kind of, not just John Pertwee era Who, but Sapphire and Steel, Quatermass and that in this story.
Absolutely.
And they were going to have Quatermass show up at the end, but for some reason they didn't let them. From what I gather, Nigel Neal, who created it, was a bit of a miserable old bastard who him and his family hated every other sci-fi show that he didn't create. Basically, he was a bit of a jealous bitch. So that's why I think it was something to do with that they didn't, that the estate didn't want it being associated with Doctor Who or something. I don't know. But yeah, either way, one thing I will say though was, ironically, I was a bit disappointed when I first saw this. Was I thought that it was going to be a really terrifying one, and then when it turned out to be quite, like straightforward at the end, it was like, oh, okay. But I mean, looking back on it now, I agree with you guys. That actually probably was a better twist, and it actually makes it stand out a bit more rather than just being a complete pastiche of these old, 70s ghost stories, sci-fi ghost stories, really.
I'm just thinking what a fabulous idea that would be, an actual Doctor Who Dan Dare crossover.
Oh no, sorry, I said it was Quatermass.
Well,
Quatermass, I mean.
Yeah. Oh right, sorry. Okay, so I thought did I say it was Quatermass?
You said Dan Dare. Oh wow.
Oh,
right. Obviously, you've got Dan Dare on the mind today, but I mean that would just be amazing if the portal opens and Dan Dare steps out. I know. Oh, I'd be totally down for that.
Oh yeah.
If you could get the rights to incorporate another British icon and bring Dan Dare into the 21st century, wouldn't that be fabulous? I mean, who is Captain Jack if he's not based on?
Oh God.
Oh yeah. Well, come on.
He so is. John Barrowman would have made an excellent Dan Dare back in his heyday. He's probably a bit too old to do it now, but he would have been.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. He would have been brilliant as Dan Dare. Yeah, he'd been awesome.
The guys in the chat are talking about the Stone Tape, which is from the early 1970s. It's a BBC drama, and it won an award, and it was considered to be really, 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 really scary. And I believe that Randall's channel over on that alternative YouTube, I can't remember the name of it right now, maybe Rumble. It might be another one, but he's got all of these films, all of these classics, all these classic shows and films. So you can find the Stone Tape to watch.
I've seen it. It's good on DVD. I said I've got.
Yeah, there's Time Profits putting a link up for it.
Put a link up for it, so you can see.
Definitely watch this classic stuff, especially if you're interested in writing. Because it is really, it's informed so much which is followed.
Just to be clear, I do respect Nigel Neal, who created Quatermass and the Stone Tape, even if he was a bit bitchy about Doctor Who and other things,
Well, look,
like he was.
Alpha Centauri got a lovely cameo.
Yeah.
I think the family was wrong on that instance. All they've done is missed the chance to raise Quatermass's profile.
Yeah,
but that's up to them. They might have flogged a few DVDs off the back of it.
I don't know if it was them. We need to look into it, but I recall there was some issues.
If that rumor is in fact the truth, then
it's true that we're going to have Quatermass be in it, but I just can't remember the reasons as to why Quatermass, the cameo, was axed at the end. But that is apparently true that he was going to be in it.
No.
So I'm thinking on the whole on this, but I've certainly enjoyed it. On the night it went out, I felt that was a good week's episode. I was satisfied with my dose of Doctor Who that week.
Yeah.
I think it was an effective story, but it managed to surprise the audience, which I think was the main thing they wanted to achieve with it, was to actually get a surprise in there. So I feel quite welcome, quite welcome around Hyde. I'm ready to go for a score. Is everybody else ready for scores?
Yeah, I'm ready for a score.
I'm going to venture a B.
Interesting. I will go for a B plus because I did quite enjoy that. It was a good one. How about you, Burranjor?
An A, good one. Can't really fault anything with it, to be honest.
Awesome. And how about you, Goldenagedgeek?
B plus.
B plus. Well, we all quite like this one as well. We're doing quite well.
Just for reference, I went for a B because I feel the pacing could have been a little better. So I mean, but hey, it's not quite. I wouldn't quite put it in my A tier, but it's a good, strong story. Very well.
It's a good story. Yeah, it is a good ghost story.
And that wet whistle and got us prepared because now we're being asked to make a journey to the centre of the TARDIS.
Yes. Oh, this was a good one.
Right.
Go on then.
I've got to put my hands up here. Right. I am not objective about this story.
Interesting. Well,
because I know full well that fandom bitches about this story.
Yeah, it's not. It's one of them, innit? It's one of them stories, to be fair.
But for the very moment that NuWho came back, I was longing for a story that explored the TARDIS beyond the console room. Because as a young fan, imagining the corridors of the TARDIS was something that I would doodle away my school hours doing.
Yeah.
And I liked the way that, the Davison era especially had a lot of stuff that was set in the TARDIS, not in the console room.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a bit of a bedroom drama at times, but at least it was trying to give the idea that there was more to this ship than just the one room. And NuWho really hadn't done that very well or very much. A little bit of a taster in The Doctor's Wife in series 6.
Yeah.
But here we are, and this time we really are going into the TARDIS. So, the story has a secondary place for this for me against my fanboying.
Yeah.
And I could go admit it. I don't feel I can be objective about this story because I just love anything which explores the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
This is, we are talking about why we love Doctor Who, and there we are. I love Doctor Who for that reason, and that's not true. They had Leela swimming in it.
There you go.
I've gone for a swim, Doctor.
Yes, I've gone for a swim, Doctor. There.
Did Leela swim in it? I thought we saw Sontaran jump over or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Sontaran kicked over the lounge furniture.
Because I remembered Leela in the swimming pool.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I would have remembered that.
Amazing how some things just stick in your mind.
Urgently Google's Leela swimming footage.
Yes.
God knows what you get.
How did you know?
Well, I don't, but what, Okay, back. I got distracted by swimming pools there. Let's try and have a sensible to start talking about this story. So we better start from the beginning. So the TARDIS is basically the Doctor's clowning around, right? And he's letting Clara mess about with the TARDIS a bit. And again, you get that feeling in the back of the mind, he's testing and probing her. He wants to see if there's some kind of something happens. Well, something does happen, a near space collision because you left the bloody shields off.
Oops.
Oops.
Oops. Oh dear. That
So
didn't go well.
very quick dematerialization and rematerialization into the hold of the salvage crew saves the TARDIS being smashed against the front of his giant space salvager. Yeah. And then the ship doesn't like that very much, and everything's going a bit wrong inside. So the Doctor and Clara have to leg it quick to let the poisonous fumes clear. And then they run into the brothers who run this salvage operation, the Van Barlens.
The Van Barlens, indeed.
And there's 3 of them, but one of them thinks he's a robot. Okay. So these guys are into loot, and the Doctor needs to get back into the TARDIS to stop it blowing up. So he basically cuts them a deal that he will help them salvage his ship, but it's just a ploy so he can get back inside it. And once he is back inside it, he swiftly ditches them, and they get a bit lost and hopeless and don't even know what to do with themselves. But then it all goes a bit wrong, and they get turned into molten zombies because there's something wrong with the TARDIS. It's all very broken, and there's energy leaking out the Eye of Harmony. And if you get hit by it, oh dear.
Not good.
Yes.
Not good.
So it turns out that the monsters stalking the Doctor and Clara through the corridor of the TARDIS is actually them, or at least it's future Clara and future Van Barlens, with the Van Barlens being merged into a sort of dual figure. So that's all a bit wrong. But the Doctor manages to get to the heart of the TARDIS and then send a remote control to his past self through a time fissure so the Doctor can change the TARDIS to a different location so that Van Barlens never detect it, therefore rewriting causality and stopping the whole thing from never happening, so that blowing up never has to happen in the first place, which also helpfully makes Clara forget everything that goes on. But during solving this crisis of the TARDIS engine blowing up, the Doctor pushes Clara harder than he ever has before and reveals to the extent to which he just does not trust her.
No, he certainly does not.
We've also got fantastic scenes in this with Clara wandering through the TARDIS library and picking up a copy of the complete history of the Time War, and also passing whispering bottles on a shelf containing thoughts of Time Lords and other mysterious magical things like that, including the TARDIS's memory globe that Van Barlens contemplate trying to cut off until they realise that suddenly they've run out of dimensions and have nowhere to go.
Yes.
So, talking about it, it's a mess.
It is a messy one, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's a marvellous mess.
Well, yeah, because it's
that's how I feel about this mess. So help me understand, guys. Help me unpick it. Burranjor, do you want to kick off? What's your take?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry to say this isn't one of my favourites, the Series 7. In fact, I'd say this is one of the weaker ones. It's still not bad, but it's hard to describe. I mean, like you, I always like, exploring little bits like inside the TARDIS. In fact, in my own Doctor Who sequel series, I'll plug that now, there's a lot of scenes set in the TARDIS. But in this case, I don't think they used it that well because to start with, they didn't really explore that many rooms of the TARDIS. I mean, okay, I'll give you the library, but it's really good. But other than that, it's true what one of the users below said, that it's less of a journey, more just going through the same
I was happy just to get a corridor. Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, okay, I suppose.
well, yeah.
But we already got a corridor and the Doctor's wife, though. So I mean, for
Oh,
this
this is
one,
true.
2 corridors.
2 corridors.
Ooh, but no, yeah, and to be honest, it's still a bit incomprehensible. What were those? Why did Clara and that guy turn into the conjoined zombies? What the hell were they meant to be? And also, as others have pointed out as well, it was such a cop out that he told Clara, and then they had to reset it because no, it's not the season finale. It was a lot of garbage, to be honest. The only thing I quite like. Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman have got some quite nice scenes together.
Radiation from the engine, wasn't it? It was a form of radiation that crippled your cells and then made you look like that.
So I suppose it's very generic, and also I will say the twist of that guy didn't.
But the 2 guys merging into one. I mean, that's a concept straight out of The Thing. That's John Carpenter right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's quite body horrible.
It is, but I don't know. It just felt a bit bland. But the zombies didn't really have a particularly unique design, and also I was going to say the subplot of those guys. The idea one of them could think he was a robot that was just kind of stupid to me. I'm sorry.
That was a bit.
Yeah, it was.
So overall, not bad, but very middling and kind of a bit, as you say, a bit of a mess, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a bit of a mess. Yeah.
Goldenagedgeek, what's your take?
Well, I'm going to double down on some of the points that have already been made. Of course, this episode is just fun in the sense that you're seeing more of the TARDIS, and that's every fan's dream to see more of, the TARDIS. We're always getting teasers of the swimming pool and the library. So to finally, and what I would say is, yes, we don't get proper appearances of, all of these rooms. They're more of cameos. They're more akin to, cameos in the TARDIS. I will admit, again, there are loads of just, tropes on full display. The big red button, you press everything, all gets reset. That's literally what happened. I mean,
there's also the self-awareness, but that's a meme in the show itself.
Yeah.
I
would say
Moffat,
it's
like, I'll
more
go
than
with
any
a bad
writer
idea, and then I'll double down on it by making it sound like it's funny.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always felt that Moffat, more than any writer, has always had some self-awareness of the show and what the fans, think about, certain things. And I mean, this episode is literally created because Moffat said when he was younger and he saw an episode from the 4th Doctor where they see a little bit of the TARDIS, he always wanted to do more. So this is literally him doing that. Yeah.
I've done more. But no, it's I quite.
We've set chat off a bit.
We have because there's a lot of interesting questions. I'll actually put up Sadiko's question because he has actually posed us a question. Here's a question for the panel. Before we found out the mystery of Clara, what theories did you have about her? Interesting question.
I actually didn't give it much thought. I assumed it would just be the usual bollocks of she's the chosen one who's got some weird timey-wimey powers and she'll save the Doctor in the finale because we can't have the Doctor save the day because that's sexist in his own show. And what do you know? I was right. That's exactly what it turned out to be.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Me personally, I didn't give it any real thought. I've never professed to be a Clara as a fan ever. I just like looking at her. To be fair, I didn't. I didn't really take it any further than that. To be honest.
Full disclosure, I didn't give a flying fuck. I mean, at the time, I was far too busy working full time, and I wasn't looking at any kind of online Doctor Who stuff. So, I know that fandom had all, no idea.
Oh, there was multiple
I was just a punter sitting down on a Saturday to get my fix. And I was quite happy to be patient, knowing that there would be some kind of explanation if you just keep watching to the end of it. Because that's how the show worked, or at least that's how it used to work. So I had the confidence of a fan that the mystery would be unveiled, and I didn't put any energy whatsoever into thinking about it at all in that time frame, because your question's so specific. I can only be honest. But let's see if Goldenagedgeek will redeem the panel by letting us know that he gave a damn. Did you?
I did not give a damn.
Excellent. No one cared.
Before we found out the mystery of Clara, what theories did you have about her?
We didn't give a
Sweet
toss.
Fanny Adams. I think it's only fair to turn that around.
Yes, it would be interesting to see what.
So, Jacko, was your brain working overtime trying to demystify Clara, and what were your thoughts? My questions with the start with Capaldi, I think we all agree.
Yes.
Okay, so music as it is to find out, but 4 male Doctor Who fans didn't give a stuff about mystery of the female companion.
No, really wasn't interested.
Let's try and get back to this story.
The other one was.
I think we've given it a fair bash. I think it has merit on the basis of being bold and trying to do something new. I think maybe yes, it did fall short. I agree with some problems with is the Eye of Harmony in the TARDIS or not?
No,
because of course the TV movie had a very different answer to The Deadly Assassin, which most firmly put the Eye of Harmony buried so deeply under Gallifrey all the time Lords had forgot it even existed.
Yes.
Suddenly it's the engine for every TARDIS.
Maybe that's the part of it that connects every TARDIS.
Again, it was established, but it provided the energy to master time travel. So yes, it's definitely murky. But I suppose, given its nature as a dimension-spanning energy, the Eye of Harmony could exist both inside the TARDIS and at the centre of Gallifrey at the same time.
Sadiko's answers your question, by the way.
I gave him a little bit of time. I basically theorised the universe was a sentient thing and had somehow created copies of Clara to give the Doctor hope again after angels take Manhattan. That is such a lovely theory.
It's a really nice theory.
Here you are. Here's Jenna Coleman in a hot summer dress to cheer you up.
It cheered me up.
I wonder why the universe never cheered me up that way.
Jenna's appearance in the story is quite cheering. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised it doesn't get talked about as much as Perry in Planet of Fire, to be honest. Maybe it does.
Don't start that.
I'll have to ask Svi next time I talk to him, but I still think Perry was the original lover. You never quite forget that. So Jenna was definitely doing a good job on the eye candy this series.
Oh, absolutely.
This one.
Absolutely.
Does he get a plus mark for the eye candy? No, we can't do that. It's just
no.
2 plus marks. Okay. So, but the story was pants.
Yeah, it was a mess.
In service of a mystery that we've all agreed we didn't care about.
Yeah, basically.
So that doesn't speak really great for the story as a whole.
Not really, no.
And as a fanboy on the TARDIS front, I would of course just say piss off. But if I was to try and approach an objective for this one, I'm gonna have to land around a C with a plus.
Right.
C plus.
I'll give it a flat C. It was a mess, but it was okay. So just a flat C for me. How about you, Goldenagedgeek?
I will give it a B because the amount of fun I have with this episode does overwhelm me.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that. How about you, Burranjor?
Overwhelming fun. Brackets,
overwhelming fun.
Goldenagedgeek on the DVD cover.
Yes. Everyone knows. That's awesome. I like that. We'll have to remember that. Write that down. Add it to the thing.
Fail. You enjoy saying that too much.
He loves saying it. He loves it. How about you, Burranjor?
I'd give it a C minus, and it's fun, but it's very flawed and just doesn't really come together as a good story. So C minus.
Two straight C's, a C minus and a C plus. That's a pretty even panel.
And the B. That's all right. I'll tell you what, that's not bad, you know. That's not bad for considering what a mess it was. That's a pretty good result, to be fair.
Held together by Matt and Jenna, really, to be honest. Together they kind of are a good strong lead.
Well, yeah, you could say that about a lot of the episodes. Maybe you could say that about the next one, because we're about to be plunged into the Crimson Horror. With Mark Gatiss putting in a second appearance this year. But this time we're back in Victoria, London.
Yep.
And it's Paternoster Gang territory time.
It's
because we've got Madame Vastra, Jenny, and Strax investigating the mystery of the Crimson Horror, where bodies have been found completely red. And not only that, but in the pupil of one of them is recorded an image of the Doctor screaming crimson with his hands outstretched, run titles. And basically, this getting turned red is all about a poison, an ancient poison from a leech creature that the Silurians knew about. And the Doctor was investigating this place called Sweetville with Clara, and him and Clara went in there to find out what was going on. He got turned into redness, and Clara got frozen inside a glass cage, inside a glass bowl, basically, because there's this whole thing of Sweetville going on is that there's this leech creature which has entered this symbiotic relationship with Mrs. Gillyflower, and they're working on strengthening humanity by poisoning it, by making a rocket explode.
Yes, lovely.
That's the idea. But apparently this will be good for us somehow. And Mrs. Gillyflower believes in this very much. However, in the end, Vastra, Jenny, and Strax managed to rescue the Doctor and stop Mrs. Gillyflower. And she tumbles to her death. And Mr. Sweet is smacked in the face with which is the name for this leech, is smacked in the face and squished with a cane. Job done. And that's basically the story. This script has a lot less clarity than Cold War.
Yes, it's a bit more of a yeah. Indeed.
Who would like to start off giving their take on it?
Well, I think it's Burranjor's turn to have a crack at this one.
Is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, go on then, mate.
Okay. Well, yeah, this is a bit of a guilty pleasure. I actually really, really like this one. I think it's. I wouldn't give it the perfect score of the Cold War because it is flawed. There's a lot of bits that are really OTT. I mean, Mr. Sweet is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit of a sucker for the Victorian setting. As I said, I do like the Paternoster Gang. I've said before that that's a thing that only Doctor Who can do. It can take characters from different genres and times and bring them together and not even have you notice that it's weird because it fits the story. And so, yeah, I really like the Paternoster Gang. Yeah. I will say, though, there are some really cringy moments. Like, I will say this. The bit where the Doctor is with Jenny and he kisses her and then he mimes having an erection, that is so cringy. And it's like, I didn't used to think so. Like, the feminists complained about that at the time, and I thought, they're making a big thing out of nothing. But actually, when I walked it back, I was like, no, fair enough. You guys were right. This is cringy. I think that really harmed the show's reputation.
Do you think that was ad-lib?
I don't know. I don't know if it was ad-libbed or not, like, to be honest,
I don't know. It's one of those.
The one thing I would notice about Crimson Horror is that Matt's performance is pretty much at its wildest.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. He's
Oh,
so
God,
kissy
yeah.
in it with all like
So I mean, he's a bit of a clown, and good at his sort of comedy gurning stuff. Was that an ad lib too far?
And I think it was the time
Because
prophets.
if that was scripted, it would have to be written in the script. The Doctor makes a motion simulating, because it's not a line of dialogue. So if it was in the script, it would have to be specifically written down as a screen instruction.
So the time prophet asked, how did he mime an erection? It's when he sees her strip off. He then, he's got his screwdriver pointing at something, then he makes it go up like that and then puts it back down as though, that's...
The Doctor makes his screwdriver simulate a rising and falling penis. Would you write that in the script?
No, I definitely would not. Never.
No.
I'm just curious as to if that's an example of the show getting into trouble because of ad lib.
I think it could be, but to be fair, it still falls on Moffat's shoulders because he should have seen that and said to him, no, don't do that, shoot it again. Or maybe not Moffat, but someone else, because there have been cases where actors have wanted to do stupid things. Remember Tom Baker wanted his doctor, he wanted his doctor to be a monk or something who would never kill, and they took him aside and said that's not going to work in an action adventure show. So to be fair, he didn't do that. So they should have said to Matt Smith, no, keep it in your pants or whatever,
Oh dear me! But no, I don't know. I don't think anyone wrote that line, that this direction. I don't think it's the sort of thing. Yeah.
The director was Saul Metzstein, so I can only presume that if that was ad lib, Saul made the deliberate choice to keep it in the edit.
Oh well, obviously, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Because he thought that moment would play well with the audience.
He's not wrong.
He wouldn't do it.
That moment may have killed Doctor Who. That's what gave the feminists a bit of a foot in the door of, well, look what they're doing, so. Well, obviously it wasn't just that, but you know what I'm saying. It was very, shall we say, misjudged.
But look, there was certainly no. I mean, it's fair to say they were certainly looking for a mistake. Any mistake.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think Sadako's.
Oh God.
Well, if there was an episode where the Doctor didn't end up saving the day because he was too busy cracking one off. Indeed.
I thought that was it. Wasn't that every episode with a female Doctor mooning, mooning the TARDIS with Yaz?
No, apparently so. Due to some people, that was what was happening. Yes. Yeah. That would be brilliant.
Just other stuff about this episode. I think that despite how campy it was, there were some quite dark moments, like when Diana Rigg, when you saw how kind of brutal she was with her daughter for being blind. I thought that was quite a good subplot that that actually gave it some weight. But overall, I think it was actually a fairly well paced story, and it had some
wonderful guest cast.
Obviously,
performance like that, absolutely. Very much. She held nothing back.
I'd say she's the hammiest villain since Paul Darrow in Time Wise. But she's got a better story to showcase it, though. That's the thing. It's like that whole story was kind of resting on Paul Darrow. Then whereas this one, Diana Rigg was actually given better stuff to work with. So overall, whilst it might not be everyone's cup of tea, and there is some bad moments in it, I think this one was quite a good story that could be quite dark in places and quite fun in others.
Yeah. I mean, it was. So, what do you think, Goldenagedgeek?
Well, like Burranjor, I am very fond of the Victorian setting. I'm always a fan of those types of stories, and this episode I do think is underrated in a lot of places, and I do think there is a lot of eeriness to it, of course, with the blind daughter and what they're doing to the people, and also as well when they find Clara and she's sort of been frozen in place like a doll in a dollhouse, and it's very creepy. And I like at the start of the episode how they
it's very Space Museum.
Yeah, and I like it how when we're seeing in flashbacks what actually happened and what led to the Doctor and Clara getting in this position, they film it as if it was filmed at the time. So they use a filter over the camera. It's got like that orange flickery type style. I really like that. And and in regards to the scene we were talking about with the Doctor and the sonic screwdriver, the modern entertainment industry always says to us that we need to see ourselves in the character. And I can say in that moment that I definitely could relate to the Doctor, and I saw myself in the character.
Yeah, let's be honest. We I agree. I agree.
I'm considering this carefully. I have to say that in 50 years of Doctor Who fandom, I've never once seen the sonic screwdriver as a penis. I'm just checking my recollection.
They make another penis.
I'm making sure I'm thorough. Did I miss an evening where I just felt, oh, that's a brilliant
compliment? They do make another penis joke in the 50th when David Tennant and Matt Smith meet, and then they hold it out, and David Tennant makes out Matt Smith's cock is small, and that's why he's
I mean, if this stuff is in the script, then I think it says a lot about how Stephen Moffat sees a penis, and possibly Mark Gatiss. But I get it with the feminists. I get it why they see the phallic symbol, But as a male Doctor Who fan, it's never been part of my reality.
Well, I've certainly never seen it.
My interest in the show has always been other things, but when this stuff gets into the show, when it makes these gags like this, it does leave it wide open to being criticised in ways that it only distract from the show's actual mission, or what should be the show's mission.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's like when you do that, it's obvious. I mean, I never thought of it as being like a penis at all. But I do. Stephen Moffat, actually, I'm starting to wonder if it was improvised, because
I'm sure that there's not just one, but multiple essays out there about Doctor Who and phallic symbols.
Stephen Moffat actually. Sorry, I forgot. Stephen Moffat does have previous for that. I think it might have been written by him actually, because he said this in the Doctor Who Confidential. It's not obvious in the story that Jack and the Ninth Doctor arguing about the Sonic and the gun was a metaphor for whose penis is bigger. And then he also had Missy, my least favourite character, rubbing the Dalek balls and comparing them to balls.
Tickling the Dalek.
Yeah. Yes. So that's what I mean. Stephen Moffat he loves knob gags, to be honest. That's just what his
That's a question. Time Profits just asked if
Sonic. If I remember that line, it was, I feel like I've just lost an old friend.
Yeah, you see?
The oldest friend.
So, maybe I was just so dense that all this subtext just passed me by because I just didn't care to see it, But...
Well, again, I wouldn't have picked up on the Jack and Nine one if Stephen Moffat hadn't said that in the Confidential. I mean, to be honest, I think Stephen Moffat's one of these guys. I don't mean to
psychoanalyze. I worked at knob jagging.
Yeah, he did. I think he's one of these guys.
Sure, man.
I think he's insecure about being seen as an uncool, like, nerdy guy, so he tends to throw in this, like, Jack the Lad, have the Doctor shag about. I remember there was an interview with Stephen Moffat said...
How tragic.
Yeah.
Because I could say with confidence that Moffat would never have any problems with Doctor Who fandom if it was about him being a nerd.
I know, but he's got some... He's a self-loathing fanboy in that respect. He's not in others, but... In that respect, I mean, maybe I've got him wrong, but the way he seems so obsessed with, like, making the Doctor into a bit of a Jack the Lad, it feels like he's, like he's trying to show, look, this isn't a show for anoraks, this is a show for cool guys, like.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Sorry, Goldenagedgeek, I don't think you'd finish before we got sidetracked onto the knob gags. Sorry about that.
No, my thoughts. I summarize what I thought. I think it's underrated in a lot of ways, and I'm probably gonna rank it a lot higher than some other people may.
Okay. Shall we do the rankings then?
Well,
Is that...
Tell
Shall
us
we
more
crack on? Well, go on then,
about
Goldenagedgeek.
why
Let's
it's
do the ranking.
underrated. Tell us more, Goldenagedgeek.
I may possibly give it an A or maybe an A plus. I really like this one, and it reminded me when you mentioned the confidentials. I think the first ever Doctor Who confidential I saw was of this episode as well, and I found it interesting how they did the characters descending into the red pool, and so yeah, that's also probably a reason why I'm very fond of this episode, just because of the fact that it was my introduction into Doctor Who confidential, and it was essentially another world, seeing how they created all this stuff and how they do the sets and props and all that before everything was CGI, and they actually put effort into all the physical stuff. I just found that very interesting.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, that's really good.
Well, my own score, I felt distinctly average about it when I watched it. I must admit, I think I felt I didn't completely understand it.
Right. Okay.
And maybe I hadn't. I was, I mean, as I say, I was working full time at the time these episodes were going out, so you get knackered.
Yeah.
And you're not always at your mentally sharpest on a Saturday evening after the weekend. Assuming you're not working, assuming you can even sit down and watch the show going out live at all.
Yeah.
But I did. I remember I was sat down to watch this one. I didn't have. When the episode finished, I didn't feel I completely understood it, and I had to go back and watch it again.
Right.
So it lacks a certain clarity, and I feel I still feel like that about it today. I mean, I think it's trying to be creative with the split time recap sort of sequence stuff, and I appreciate that to an extent, but I also felt that its humour it didn't quite land with me, and the threat was frankly ridiculous.
Mr. Sweet crawling along the floor.
I can't see me going any higher than a C.
Fair
I'm
enough.
thinking, do I need to mark it down lower? Yeah, I think I will. I think I'll settle for C minus.
Oh, very interesting. Burranjor, what about you?
Well, I'm going to give it a B plus. It falls short of, I think, being an A because, as John said, it's true that the threat, like the final moment where he's walking away, I know it's meant to be campy, but I think it works a little too well. And there are other moments, like we've already discussed, Moffat's knob gags, but apart from that, I think it's a reasonably good story. I like the Paternoster gang. I like the setting. Diana Riggs, a great ham in it. And
we haven't talked about the Jenny ninja sequence.
Well, that's actually the dick bit. That's what he does it because he takes it off. She looks sexy, so he's like, oh.
Well, we have in the terms of the Sonic Screwdriver, but not in the terms of Jenny's character who starts off as a servant answering the door. It then turns into this ninja woman who can cut people down with swords. Do we like that? Is that a good role model for aspiring girls? I mean, I don't know. Is there a discussion to be had there?
I don't really think it. I've never really cared about role models, to be honest. Like, I think as long as women aren't. I mean, I was watching one of these old B movies last night, and it's so funny how like lame the female characters in them are. So as long as they're not like fainting at the sight of, then I think that's good enough, to be honest. I don't think we need to worry about girls.
I mean, I can handle Madame Vastra being a skill hunter. I can obviously handle Strax being a fearless soldier. I'm just not quite sure why Jenny had to be made into this sort of ninja assassin.
Well, she was already one, wasn't she? In A Good Man Goes to War, is there not a bit where her and Vastra threaten some guys with swords?
Yes, I mean, it is continuing what had been done before. I agree.
I do. Vastra trained her, so I mean, it's not like Oh yeah, sorry. I agree. Papalaz said that the aliens, the Silurians shouldn't have breasts because those are mammary glands. That's what defines a mammal. Yeah, and they're reptiles.
Well, I mean, I agree. I think the modern Silurians are too close to humans.
Tellurian.
In other words, too obviously a human.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
we've lost something. They needed to have a certain strangeness. They needed to be hard to relate to, because that's part of making the effort to understand them. You know, yeah. Well, you know, yes, quite. I didn't go with that. Anyway, we've done the scores. Has everybody done their scores?
I haven't done a score.
Oh, do us a score.
No, no. I'll give it a B minus.
B minus.
I quite enjoyed it. So there you go. I'm quite happy with that.
Well, we're getting towards it now, boys, because now we are having, after being horrified by Crimson, now we're in a Nightmare in Silver.
Indeed. A Nightmare in Silver. Oh.
Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
His second script for Doctor Who. And it's
sorry, John. I just need to
doubtful we will ever see a third.
All right, mate, crack on.
So I actually to go to the toilet just for a few minutes. Then.
Well, you can leave your mic on. You just talk while you're having a wee.
I'll be back I'll be back soon. Don't worry.
Dedication.
Just carry on. It wouldn't even be my choice to. So it wouldn't even be my turn to go first anyway. So don't worry. About it.
Well, look, on the whole, fandom took the Doctor's wife well. Not universally. Fandom never takes anything universally well, but on the whole, it was very well received. And to hear that Neil Gaiman was going to come back and write a Cybermen episode, there was a lot of enthusiasm for this episode. There was a lot of optimism that it was going to deliver something very special. And ever since that day, fandom has spoken about it in somewhat muted breath.
Yeah, well, Sadako's comment quite. Oh God, that episode.
Oh God, that episode. Yes,
indeed. So it's not a universally loved episode, is it? Really, it's a shame, really. But there you go. Overuse of Cybermen.
Well,
again.
I'm hoping that maybe we can uncover something about why that is, because you know it is Neil Gaiman, and there's so many ingredients in here.
Yeah.
But we need to find out why did this episode not work?
Yeah.
So I mean, what actually happens? Well, we started off with Clara doing her babysitting.
Yes, and
with
then
these two little monsters, Artie and Angie. Sorry, I meant children.
Yes.
And because we didn't know what else to do with them, the Doctor agrees to take them on a trip in the TARDIS.
Of course.
To see Hedgwick's World of Wonders. An entire world which is an amusement arcade. However, it's the Doctor, so it gets the time wrong.
Yes.
And they turn up after World of Wonders has been abandoned. Because there was this giant war that swept through this entire region of space involving Cybermen.
Yep.
And upon hearing that, and spotting strange little silver insects, the Doctor decides, against all common sense really, that he won't take these children home, and that he's going to stay.
Why not?
Because it looks dangerous. So they discover that there are basically Cybermen turned into exhibits and relics in this thing, including a Cyberman that plays chess.
Yep.
But that in encountering this apparently robotic-only chess-playing Cyberman, the Doctor manages to get infected by cyber nanites.
Yes.
And so the Cybermen are now inside the Doctor, busily converting him from the inside. At the same time, the Cybermen, who can now move incredibly quickly,
very fast,
and have an ability to sort of slow down time, as well as turn their heads 180 degrees backwards, and take their heads off and put them back on again. Well, they could do that before, I believe. They capture Artie and Angie to put them under mind control because they want their childlike minds to power their cyber planner.
Yes.
But then realizing that they've got hold of the Doctor is what is even better, and they want to make the Doctor a new cyber planner. But the Doctor manages to outwit the cyber nanites, and because he has them under a threat that he could force them to regenerate, he can regenerate and get rid of them all and stuff, and he outwits them enough to get a message to Porridge, who's like this little dwarf guy who's been hanging around, but he actually turns out to be the emperor of a known galaxy.
Yes.
And therefore, Porridge calls for his flagship to come along. Everyone gets teleported aboard, and the planet gets blown up from space, which, to be fair, is usually the only way to be sure.
Absolutely the only way to be sure.
Except that, right at the end, in the vastness of the void, a little Cyberman can be seen in here,
Yes,
still alive, sort of thing. Yeah, so there's some little sort of hint that Cybermen aren't completely gone. But you know, in the course of all that, you know, there's Cybermen awakening on the planet, and there's thousands of them, and all of that. So that's what you get. That's
what
the
you got.
Nightmare in Silk.
That was there. Interesting. So, Golden Age Geek, what do you think of this one?
I have to say, this episode I would probably compare to some of the early Series 7 episodes that Chibnall did in terms of quality.
Wow.
I'm not a big fan of this one. I'm really not. And I think what it comes down to is the fact that, you know, Doctor Who, similar to other shows like Star Trek, they work best when they give you things to ponder over. They give you, you know, loads of thoughts to digest, and what do I think about this? You know, and thoughts about the future, technology, that sort of thing. And I think the Cybermen work well when they're given this sort of philosophical argument of, you know, change but going too far and everyone becoming the same, that sort of thing. I think that the Cybermen are really good when those sort of questions are explored. But this one just seems sort of action. It's just all over the place. The Cybermen are now like Iron Man. Their designs have changed. And I like the early Cyberman designs because it looks very like horrific. Like you can see just by looking at them that this is a cut up and put back together like human, and that's what they should be. And that's why some of the later episodes that we'll get onto in the future seasons, when they sort of do try and go back to that, specifically in one Capaldi episode, where they really focus in on the fact that these were people, but this just feels like they're vacuous entities. I don't really care about them, and they're just getting blown up, and I don't really think there was any message to send with this. And in terms of message, I mean like a moral question or something like that. So this I just think is just pointless.
Well,
That's interesting.
I mean, I think one of the biggest flaws of the story is the ending, because blowing it all up means that none of it has any weight or consequence.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So what if you saw thousands of Cybermen on the screen? So what if there's giant cyber tombs size of cathedrals under his planet? It'll just get blown up, so none of it matters. So choosing that ending just completely cancelled any value and weight in what had gone before.
Exactly.
And then you were left with tampering with the Cybermen for the sake of tampering with the Cybermen. You know, did a slow time Cyberman help that story at all? Wouldn't it have been better to have a full attack of a full squad of Cybermen?
Yeah.
Attacking those people. Why
Yes.
Why was a slow-mo Cybermen better than doing a battle with Cybermen? And actually showing the threat of these Cybermen. And finally, you know, I just think that if this was meant as some way of re-establishing the Cybermen as a threat in the series, then the story should have left them as a threat in the series, and it should have been, let's get on my spaceship and run away.
Yeah.
Not let's just go on my spaceship and push a button and blow them all up. You know, because then it would have been actually, yeah, the Cybermen are a resurgent threat, and okay, the Doctor might not be the cyber planner, but they've gained so much from their contact with the Doctor, they're going to be more dangerous than ever.
Yeah.
I mean, look, forgive me, okay, I'm going to speak heresy.
Oh, here we go.
I quite like the Cyber Time Lords.
Oh no!
There's the controversy.
Obviously, it's an idea that just got stolen because it was in the Supremacy
That's
crossover
right, yeah.
comic,
Yeah,
and so
true.
I mean, it's not a new idea, but by giving us, but at least having the Cybermen aspire to being something greater than they are, and reaching for powers that you really don't, but it really scares you to think of them having. It makes them more dangerous than what they are here, which is just a bunch of robots that can just be blown up without consequence.
Yeah. Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, what was the whole point of hiding? Do these Cybermen not even have a spaceship?
Well, not now apparently.
Well, when we stashed these Cybermen on this planet, they have no plan to leave. But you want to stomp around the surface forever? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. What was their purpose of being there beyond surviving? I mean, in two of the Cybermen, it's revealed that the Cybermen aren't just surviving to survive; they're surviving with a purpose.
Yes, exactly. But these
And without a kind of cyber controller or cyber leader to really speak for the Cybermen, I mean, you're left with Matt Smith speaking to himself, which isn't the best way of representing the Cybermen in a way. It's great acting. Oh, by God, it's dynamite acting from Matt Smith.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Probably
brilliant.
one of his best performances in the role, I venture.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, well, there you go.
Sorry.
Okay.
No,
Others may see that differently. But, I would have wanted to see, if you're going to do something to kind of ramp the Cybermen up, do it. Don't just make him a bit of a gimmick and forget about it and then toss it on. So perhaps the problem here is that Neil Gaiman just didn't have a credible Cyberman story in him.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't it.
I would agree with all that. I don't know who to blame though, as it were. I mean, personally, that's what I say. I don't really like this story either. I'd say it's.
Like the redesign. I don't like the redesign. I've never liked this redesign.
No, it's awful.
As Goldenagedgeek said, it loses the whole relationship with what Cyberman is.
The worst is this the design they use in Dark Water?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I'm not kidding. See the bit where they come out of the tanks in Dark Water? That's got to be the way their little arses move. It's so funny. They remind me of that Sugar Babes video, Push the Button, when they're shaking their arses. That's what they look.
I've never thought of it like that before. Now.
That's what I thought. Seriously.
I see it now. You've said it.
Yeah. I mean, they're not as good as Mutia Buena, but that is what they remind me of. But I mean, sorry to say, I agree with a lot of the points made here. I don't think whoever wrote this, whether it was Neil Gaiman or I know he was credited, but he famously disowned it. So I don't know how much of it was rewritten, but whoever did the final draft did not get the Cybermen, because what makes the Cybermen scary, I'm going to say that you should always focus on the body horror. You should always focus on the horror of being transformed. I don't think you need to make them a big intergalactic threat. We've already got the Daleks for that. And the Cybermen, they just want to survive, so they wouldn't necessarily want to conquer. Like, you could maybe do a story where they're living in peace with, say, humanity, who let them, convert a couple of people or whatever to keep their numbers stable, and that's fine. Like, you don't need to make them this big powerhouse. And this story seems more focused on that than in the things that make the Cybermen unique and scary. And on top of that, it also, it tries too hard. Like, it gives them ridiculous super speed.
Can I just clarify for the moment? The time profit. Cybermen are not robots. They are part organic. Yes, that's the point I'm making. They behave as if they're robots in this.
Yeah, they are more robotic in this.
Well,
yeah. So I'm being, by saying they're robots, I'm being disparaging because I'm making it clear that these don't feel like properly Cybermen with proper agency to me.
I agree, but that brings me to another big thing to have with this episode, is that it's not just that they miss the body horror and the conversion thing. And sorry, Tim Roberts saying they've always wanted to conquer. And I know that, but they only want to conquer to survive. So it doesn't, I mean, you can certainly have them do that, but that's not where like all of it should be. But beyond that, anyway, another thing this misses is that it makes the Cybermen way too emotional. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, as I was going to say, I disagree that that's one of Matt Smith's best performances. I'm going to say, that, not to be super controversial, I think that's actually his weakest performance because he's way too over the top, dancing on the tables. I mean, he's meant to be a cyber controller. Why the hell is he flirting with Jenna Coleman, dancing around, and like that? And also the way that they beat him. They play on his pride by making it that he has to beat the Doctor in a chess match. It's like, why would a Cyberman, care about beating him? The Cyberman just like, that's not logical. I can take you now, so I'll just, it's not written. And also, the ending is atrocious because why didn't Warwick Davis just use that safety word to get them to the spaceship and then blow up the planet from the beginning? Why did he let all those people die? I still don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's because he didn't want to let people know he was hiding there.
So he's happy to let about 18 people get killed.
Well, his conscience started to prickle the more things went wrong.
Also, another thing that's a bit annoying about the episode is Jason Watkins. He's a really, really, really good actor. And he's so wasted in that. I mean, I could have played that part. He has like 2 lines, then he just stands at the back and does nothing. It's like, it's such a waste of him,
It was a pay packet, darling.
Yeah. It was, but they should have used him for something better than that, to be honest.
He was very underused. He was very underused, to be fair. I agree with that. He really was. But no, it's an episode, as you said, it's an episode that it's as if it was written for something else, but then they only had the Cybermen to fit in the spot. Didn't really make sense. As you said, the ending was just, the ending was rubbish.
It might have been better if it had been a 2-parter and like the first part had been them taking over, then the second part had been them trying to escape. And as you say, they didn't destroy the Cybermen, they just escaped. And like they had that planet now. That would have been a much better story, but as it is, it was too much to squeeze in there, and it didn't really feel right, I think.
Yeah, it didn't sit right with me either. It was, I think it was.
Goldenagedgeek, have you got anything extra to add on Nightmare and Silver?
No, I just totally disagree with the direction that they took the Cybermen, and of course from here, those designs stayed on. So everything else that happens later on in terms of their design and how they're used is kind of, the blame falls on this episode quite a lot. And as I say, it's just generic pew pew lasers everywhere. There's not really much thought, and that just didn't engage me.
Shall we call these Cybermen the Sugar Babes Cybermen because of the way they move their sexy little asses?
Well, they are now.
Again, I agree. I think Sugar Babes Cybermen are the worst design, in my opinion. Like, they really are. They're the worst design of them all.
Oh, they're not. They're not.
Let's go for some scores for Nightmare in Silver then. And I'll start us off. You know what? I don't even feel like being charitable. I'm going to go straight with a D.
Fair enough.
I wouldn't recommend this to anyone.
No, I would agree. I would go for. In fact, I'd go for D-. The ending just was so rubbish and so lazy. I just couldn't do it. So D- for me. Burranjor?
Well, I would agree with John. I'd give it a D. I don't think it's quite bad enough to warrant a D-, but it's pretty low fare, and it's possibly the weakest. I know I'd say it's definitely the weakest of the second part of season 7.
Yeah, agreed. How about you, Goldenagedgeek?
I
would give it a D as well.
Oh, blimey. Right, well, there we are. The panel is united. The penultimate episode of Series 7 was a duffer, for D for duffer. Now, we have a decision to make, gentlemen.
Yes.
Do we do Name of a Doctor, Night of the Doctor, Day of the Doctor, Time of the Doctor next week? Or do we tackle Name of the Doctor now? Now, personally, I'm in favour of. I'd like to put them all together so we can do an Odd for Doctor special.
Yeah, I think they fit together so well. It would be an injustice to
Just to do it
split
at
them
the
up.
end of this one.
Yeah.
So we have reached the natural end of today's content.
We have indeed. That went quite well. We still managed the 1 hour.
The timing is quite good.
Yes.
Because it's a great time to be very nearly finished. So
Yes.
So let's just wind up, and we'll see everybody next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
So everybody happy about doing those three together next week as a
Well, I
together
assume you guys will be here for the 50th anniversary live stream.
You think maybe?
I reckon there's a moderate chance the boys might have something to say.
I'll see about Wingy as well. I mean, I hope he's last time we said, so I hope he'll still be on that one.
Sheer serendipity, everybody. Time Prophet needs a pee.
Yes.
Right.
Well, we timed that well then. Perfect.
Thank you again, chat, for being with us and for giving us extra stuff to mull over.
Yes.
It's a pleasure as always.
It's been wonderful.
So we'll see you all same time next week as we launch into the end of Matt's era of the Doctor quadrilogy.
Indeed. Thank you for everybody who's been here. Thank you, Goldenagedgeek, and thank you, Burranjor, for being here as always. And thank you, John the White. And we shall catch you all next week. Good night, everyone.
Bye.